was just reading a few pages from a fascinating book. It is literally filled with countless pieces of wisdom. One in particular deserves quoting. It reads, "Vengeance is mine." Now that's a powerful quote. And from what book am I reading? The Bible. That's right, the Bible. Now let me ask you a personal question. At some time in your life, has someone ever made you so angry, so upset, that you considered some form of retribution, some form of revenge? Of course you have. You wouldn't be human unless you did. Revenge is a natural emotion. The only problem is that we are all raised to consider revenge as being juvenile, immature. Society does not condone such lewd displays of conduct, at least not openly. And that is why we are here. Hi, I'm Linda Blair, welcoming you to How to Get Revenge. During this program, you are going to become quite literally an expert in the field of revenge. Now, when I talk about revenge, I'm not talking about bodily injury to anybody. I mean, that is definitely not our purpose here. Our aim is to simply inform you of the options you have to make that person experience the same humiliation, the same mental anguish that they inflicted on you. You are going to learn dozens of tricks of the trade from some of the top experts in the field, including private investigators, former police officers, and other virtuosos of vindication. You will also discover invaluable techniques of retribution, some simple, some more elaborate, but all designed to obtain the goals you desire. And you will also see and hear fascinating stories from people just like you, who were at one time victimized, yet came back to achieve the ultimate revenge. Let's face it, revenge can be sweet, especially when it's against someone who really deserves it. And I'm sure we all know a few of those, right? Former friends, lovers, business associates, family members. The list is virtually limitless. And you know what? We all practice revenge on a daily basis, and we don't even realize it. Example. Have you ever tried to change lanes on the freeway, but the idiot in the other lane won't let you?
Yeah, you! Woo! Come on! Yeah, you!
So what do you do to get even? Well, when he tries to merge into your lane, you block him out. Now you've had your revenge. Ever since childhood, we've been practicing some form of revenge. Remember as a kid, ordering a pizza by telephone and having it delivered to another kid's house that you disliked? Sound familiar? Or maybe you remember this classic bit of adolescent revenge. The idea was to fill a paper bag with fresh animal droppings, the fresher, the better, then place it on the victim's doorstep. Once done, you'd light the bag on fire, knock on the victim's front door, then run to his backyard. Then when the victim arrived, usually the neighborhood grouch, he'd have no choice but to put out the fire. Meanwhile, you'd run to the victim's back door and begin pounding on it. This would cause the startled victim to run back through his home, soiling his fine shag carpeting with animal droppings while you've made your clean exit. Fasten your seatbelts, for now it's time for us to explore the more serious forms of revenge. We've assembled several of the top professionals in the field of revenge to guide us through this endeavor. First off, we're going to meet private investigator Mark Lewis. Mr. Lewis has aided hundreds of victims in getting even and is considered a master in automobile retribution. Next up is investigator Kyle Pappenfuss, who will give us pointers on how to cause havoc with a Mark's home. We'll also hear from a presently active police detective who we'll refer to as JM. He will enlighten us with his vast knowledge of seeking revenge by mail. And then there's Officer PF, another presently active police officer who will show us the many ways your telephone can cause tremendous damage to your enemy. But first, let's begin with private investigator Quinn Vickers. Mr. Vickers specializes in getting even with former friends and lovers. Mr. Vickers, could you give us an example of what could be done to a former friend or lover?
A few examples, huh? Okay, let's talk about friends. I had this client whose best friend came to him and talked him into investing in a real estate scam. $10,000 talking. He promised my client that he'd get a 75% return on his money within 3 months. And being that they were good friends, well, my client didn't think that his friend would screw him. Well, he sure did. And the worst thing that happened was that when he found out that his so-called friend had made approximately $3,500 on the deal. And that's when my client first came to me.
What did you have him immediately do?
Immediately? Nothing. Not a damn thing. You see, the secret with revenge is patience. Patience. If he were to act right away, his so-called friend would have caught on. And he would have called the authorities or done something in return to my client. And that would have meant he won again, and my client loses again. So you wait. In this case, I waited a couple of months. Then I hit him on several levels. First of all, I took a death certificate, whited out the former information, filled in his name there, and along with a letter stating that I was his wife, I sent the death certificate and the letter off to the Bureau of Internal Revenue and the Social Security Office. Next year comes tax time, he's screwed with the Internal Revenue. Down the road a ways, when he wants to change jobs, he's screwed again. And way down the road, when he finally wants to collect, no Social Security benefits.
Hit him in the pocketbook, eh?
Better yet, hit him while he's down. After all, my client wasn't the heavy here. He was just trying to even up the score. Next, I made appointments for this punk with several professionals, doctors, lawyers, dentists, you name it. And I'm talking dozens here. So when he doesn't show up, he's got a lot of pissed off professionals. Not only that, several of them, as you may well know, will bill him for not showing up.
Ouch. I'd sure hate to be him.
Yeah, so would I. But remember what the Bible says, an eye for an eye. Remember, this guy did my client in. Okay, then I finally topped off the whole escapade by severing his marriage. This took a little work, but it was worth it. For several evenings, I waited outside of his home and watched to see if he'd leave home at night and at what time. Eventually, he did, and I noted on what day and what time. I then waited until he returned and made note of that time. Once I had proof of one of his evening treks away from home, I purchased an inexpensive woman's shoe from a local store. I then wrapped it in a small box. Then, using the letterhead of a local hotel, which is free, available in most hotel lobbies or rooms, I typed a letter saying the following: Dear Mr. and Mrs., and I put their last name in there. When the two of you were here on the evening of, and I put the date the man left home, your wife forgot her shoe. Here it is. We'd appreciate the return of $2.50 for postage. Thank you, the management of, and I typed in the hotel's name. Anyhow, to make a long story short, the upshot of the downshot is that his wife finally files for divorce. He has to sell the home, the cars, the stocks, everything. I guess you could say my client finally came out on top.
Boy, I'd have to agree. Imagine that, breaking up a marriage to the U.S. mail. Amazing. But what's even more amazing is the many other ways that you can use the post office in a vengeful manner.